From Mumbai school kid to cloud player hacker, Dhravya, welcome to Front Page. We are super excited to unveil the memory layer of AI, your journey, and what it means for the next decade of agents and developers.
Pessimists sound smart, but optimists make all the money. You might have heard of that. I think that once a company gets to that stage and has the right fundamentals and has the right iteration velocity, in reality, they can just do something to keep people happy. Like they have that in their blood.
You're not smart enough to be an IIT dropout and then edited your own LinkedIn education to lean into that meme.
So there's like multiple problems with the media narrative.
From Mumbai school kid to cloud player hacker to O1 extraordinary ability visa holder in the United States, Dhravya has raised $3 million from names like Jeff Dean, Dane Nesht, and founders across the valley, all betting that memory will be the next big abstraction layer in AI. Supermemory ingests everything: files, documents, chats, emails, app streams, and turns it into a personalized knowledge graph that any agent, chatbot, or workflow can query in real time. It's already actually powering use cases from AI video editors and assistants to multi tool orchestration engines that need to remember users across months, not minutes. And of course, joining us today is Dhravya Shah himself, 20-year-old solo founder of Supermemory, a universal memory API that gives AI agents long-term cross-app memory. And this conversation comes at a turning point. AI agents are exploding. Context windows are longer than ever. But true cross-session memory and interoperability remain unsolved. Developers are juggling multiple models, siloed memories, and rising concerns about vibe-coded AI output and maintainability. Dhravya, welcome to Front Page. We are super excited to unveil the memory layer of AI, your journey from Mumbai to San Francisco, and what it means for the next decade of agents and developers. I hope you're excited.
Very, very excited. Very excited to be here.
Fabulous, Dhravya. Great to have you with us. Let's kick it off with the first thing that comes to mind, which is solving AI's memory problem. So, most people, Dhravya, AI still has amnesia. Every new chat feels like a fresh start. I go through it every morning. And each model, I was of course talking about the model, not myself, and has a siloed memory. In your words, what exactly is super memory? Let's start there first, and then let's get deeper into the conversation.
All right. So, right now, the way we build AI agents is a way where the context of like the message history is something that you send to the model. And for a new
Hmm.
conversation, it's a completely new message history, which means the model is completely stateless. These model providers are stateless because they are model providers. They serve
Hmm.
compute. They are not incentivized to add memory to their thing.
Sure.
And there's only two public like users of memory in production in the world right now, that is OpenAI and Claude. But every developer wants to do this. So
Hmm.
Supermemory gives the best way and the state of the art way to add memory to your own app, just like ChatGPT or Claude apps have, with just one or two lines of code. So that's what Supermemory is.
Great, man, Dravya. You explained it very, very clearly, and for I believe all of our viewers to very easily absorb. Which actually brings me to this thought: how is a universal memory API different from just plugging a great vector DB and RAG pipeline into an app? And why do you believe memory cannot live inside a single model provider and instead has to sit in the routing layer above OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, etc.?
Yep. So I'll answer our first question first. Uh,
Sure.
which is how is it different from like a retrieval or like a RAG stack?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's just talk about retrieval first. If you are building a retrieval thing, every document is something that you query. Um, and let's just assume that this document is a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and sometime in this conversation I said something that was kind of linked to something from the past,
Sure.
or something updated or whatever. But in a RAG system, everything is independent of each other. All of
Mm-hmm.
everything is just documents or chunks.
Mm-hmm.
So to build a good memory system, you need to do three things. You need to first handle updates of memory somehow. You need to do forgetfulness, and you need to do like inferences. So from
Mm-hmm.
very random pieces of information, you need to derive one new piece of information. And Supermemory handles that. But that's just for the retrieval stuff. There's also a thought about, is retrieval everything you need for good memory? Like if I say something like, what mouse should I buy? Will retrieval show all the results for mouse? Because most of the times I might have never spoken about a mouse. So it needs to
Sure.
know very random, non-literal things about me, like
Mm-hmm.
the user is a CEO, just set up an office, and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Which are so non-literal that you kind of have to put them in the default agent context, which
Sure.
supermemory also provides. So it's not just a retrieval problem, which there's a lot of depth in that in itself, but it's also this problem of creating a user profile. um, but you need RAG anyways, so then you also need RAG on top. So it becomes like a
Sure.
four-layer problem to solve. And
Mm.
sorry, that answer was really big, but
No,
yeah,
no,
that
no,
is the
it wasn't. It made sense. It
yeah.
absolutely made sense. And please keep your answers elaborate where need be for all of us to understand the genius behind supermemory.
Yep,
What's
yep,
the
yep.
most convincing real world example you would like to give us, Dravya, where shared memory across tools, let's say email, notes plus drive, change the entire user experience?
Yep. And I can talk about my own team actually. So my own team, the Supermemory team,
Hmm.
manages context across multiple different platforms. Like our growth engineer writes like growth plans in Google Docs, while all the engineering stuff is in Notion, and then all of us use different chatbots.
Hmm.
But in the end, everything is about Supermemory. So now all of this context and all of this siloed information from everywhere that they are using is
Hmm.
now stored in our own like kind of internal version of the implementation of supermemory.
Hmm.
um, and now we have this like mega context about supermemory that we if we go to any new chatbot, if we build anything new, we can just bring that context along with us, and we don't need to like explain everything again and again. And to give a very direct example, this is the database schema.
Hmm.
Like this is how our database schema looks. It may update, some of these things may be forgotten, etc., etc. So all of that is there. But then if I go to like if I discuss the database schema with Claude, and then I go to cursor and I'm like
Hmm.
implement this, it already knows everything. So that feels very cool, and that's a very nice use case.
And I'm happy that it still brings a smile to your face and it is seamless.
Yep.
So let's get under the hood first. The speed, quality, latency aspect, Dravya. You've said this, super memory is faster and more brain like, which was logical the way you were explaining it. And I wanted
Yep.
to come to that. That many memory competitors modeling time, forgetting, and inferences. So, at a very high level, walk us through the memory pipeline ingest, which leads to structure, which leads to temporal links, which leads to knowledge graph, leading eventually to retrieval. What was
Yep.
the hardest technical problem to solve to keep latency low at scale? And how do you decide what to remember, what to forget, and what to infer? Because I think that is where the secret sauce is.
Yep. So, I mean, to walk you through the entire ingestion pipeline, first thing is connectors and extractors,
Hmm.
which is mostly a solved problem, which is like a little bit hard, but you essentially need to like sync it with external platforms or be able to extract information from like random PDFs and stuff, like
Hmm.
to raw text of that thing. Now, once you have the raw text, the next thing that you need to do is kind of like a RAG pipeline where you just chunk, embed all of that,
Hmm.
and then that, like after that starts like the real magic, where you have to extract things out of the things that you have kind of understood about a document already. Um, so for extraction, we actually built our own like kind of custom model that is really good at it, because you have to do a lot of financial engineering there, in
Hmm.
what is like the right cost to ROI ratio of like how expensive that model can be. So that was like quite hard in itself. But then how to extract and what to extract is also very difficult, because this extraction is to create a knowledge graph of that user.
Sure.
And then this also includes things like, because it's a knowledge graph, you have to think about the scaling laws in a graph, which means you cannot like traverse through everything.
Hmm.
Uh, you cannot like read the entire graph and stuff. So you have to almost sample the graph in a way that you can still update, and you can still like do things on top of the graph based on existing
Hmm.
data. So but at the same time, you are not spending too much compute in it. Then comes the creation of user profiles, which is a whole another problem, because user profiles have two distinct things. One is the things that the agent should always know about the user, and one is kind of
Sure.
episodic things.
Hmm.
Um, and throughout this pipeline, like this is just like to show the application level stuff, but then
Hmm.
there's infrastructure level things, like in the end there are also some vectors stored. And right now in vectors, there's three main like big indexes, which is HNSW, which is hierarchical navigable small worlds.
Hmm.
There's IPF flat, and now there's disk ANN. All three have their pros and cons, but disk ANN, there's very few like production like applications of disk ANN so far, except for PG vector scale and others. But then there's a new thing, that's span index, which is how do you scale vectors on like a billion scale. We
Hmm.
have like billions and billions of tokens ingested every single day, and we have to also store all of that somewhere, and then be able to
Sure.
query through it. And then there's more infrastructure level things, like how do you do post filtering versus pre filtering, and like how do you do like dynamic indexes and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's like a lot of technological problems that we had to solve slowly but surely. And then in the end of it, after solving all of this, you have like a good system that serves a latency of less than 300 milliseconds end to end. So that's what we have achieved so far.
Fabulous, Dravya. Wonderful. But before I move on, I need to ask you, which was the most satisfying challenge for you to solve, you and your team?
For us, it was figuring out the graph stuff. Like
Hmm.
traditionally, graphs have been very strictly schema. Like they have a very strict schema and a very strict
Hmm.
structure. And a strict schema means that you have to handle the graph with triplets, which is like Dravya likes coding. It's a triplet,
Hmm.
right? Like there's two entities and one
By the
relation.
way, do you? I said, by the way, do you like coding? It was just an obvious
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, I love coding, obviously.
But
Um, so we figured out a graph structure based on facts rather than like relations and entities. And
hmm.
then facts are like kind of malleable, they are more fluid. You can do more things with them, and they are more efficient. You don't need to traverse through everything to find information, and a lot of benefits. And like our head of resource came up with that, and we were like, man, this is the best thing that's ever happened. So yeah, that was
Nice. Fabulous. Dravya, which brings me to this thought, which is again an example where two unrelated facts merged into a new useful memory for an agent.
So an example of that would be, let's say I was saying something like, my brother is learning to drive, and
Hmm.
my brother is really good at driving. And then something like,
Hmm.
my brother crashed his car. Okay.
Hmm.
And then one day I say something like, my brother's name is Dhairya.
Hmm.
Now, useful memory is Dhairya used to be good at driving, but then he crashed his car, so we
Hmm.
don't know it yet. um,
Right.
for this, you need to have the right kind of information to make the derivation out of.
Sure.
And obviously, the derivation will not always be extremely right.
Hmm.
It's kind of like an assumption, but humans
Hmm.
also make that assumption. It's like sleep time compute, which supermemory
True.
does.
True. Fair enough. I think that sheds enough light on that understanding. What about the metrics? Everyone claims their memory improves personalization. You've
Yep.
actually run this in production for dozens of apps, Dravya. Share
Yep.
one hard business metric you're very proud of, a case where memory clearly improved task completion, tokens saved, latency, or for that matter, revenue. And how do
Yep.
you evaluate good memory internally?
Yep. So, very good question. And I love this question because this is basically our entire core business thing. We had a customer that was actually a voice agent,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, voice agents have extreme latency constraints because you cannot go and you be like, I'm thinking, right?
Sure.
Which you can do in like agents in general.
Mm, mm,
Um, so there was a voice agent that had very less retention because there's a lot of voice agents in the market, and they wanted their voice agent to have extremely good personalization so that the things that you say it kind of just infers based on everything that you've said before. And it also like is very conversational in its flow. So
mm,
this company came to us and they were like, okay, we want to improve this. We cannot, like waste any latency, like zero latency change. And for
mm-hmm.
them, their retention was very low. So we doubled their retention in just 1 week by adding memory
Oh,
without
wow.
any latency like cost added. And
Mm-hmm.
it is really hard to believe that latency was not added, but the way it can happen is user profiles. Because user profiles is not a stateful step in the agent
Mm,
pipeline. It's something that you kind of preload, which means the agent does not have to look for something to kind of like load it up in the context,
sure.
which makes it really fast.
Right.
So there was a really successful user. They are our fifth biggest enterprise right now. They doubled their contract because and they are like going full on in the memory and personalization aspect. So they actually changed their product goals as well, which was really satisfying.
Congratulations on that to you and your team, Dravya.
Yeah.
So, today, if I were to ask you, what does your scoreboard look like in terms of precision slash recall of memories, hallucination reduction, cost per successful task, and most importantly, stickiness?
Yep. So we run all the evaluations on two main benchmarks. Actually, three benchmarks. One is Locomo, and the only
Mm-hmm.
reason we use Locomo is because the industry uses it. We actually believe that it's not the right kind of benchmark. And then
Which,
there's
according to you, is?
yeah, so LongMem is the really good benchmark, which
Mm-hmm.
is like extremely broad. It has like a lot of different types of evaluations. Like it tests for six major things in memory, including extremely hard ones like temporal reasoning, um, and down to the simple ones like simple question answering. And we've run on one more benchmark called NoLema. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason we run also on NoLema is to kind of is our counter argument to bigger models can just dump all the context in and get better outputs, which is not true.
Mm.
So on all of these, and on the retention metric, I already said like we can improve it by 10 to 20% based on the market. Um, and for the models themselves on NoLema, we have found about 10 to 15% improved model quality without dumping all the
Nice.
tokens. So you also save on like 10x
Yeah.
on the tokens. Um,
Yeah.
and on the latency, like because you are sending less tokens, the
Mm-hmm.
latency is also faster because the difference between the added latency by super memory and the added latency by the model provider is huge.
Mm.
um, and on like LongMem eval, we have achieved more than 85% like success rate. which is really good across all of these six ones.
Mm,
On LongMem
mm,
Eval S, we have yet to run it on like the bigger versions, so we'll find out.
mhm,
And on Locomo, it's really easy to like kind of just win Locomo right now. In fact, you can literally just dump everything in Locomo and Gemini Flash and get like the best SOTA responses. But
mhm.
without dumping everything, we can get more than 80% on most of the Locomo tasks, except I think it was like open domain, which is really hard to get right. So we are working on that one.
Fair enough. But I mean, what I could take away from that, Dravya, was the fact that you're obviously using an industry standard. Plus, on
Yeah.
top of that, you're using two others to make the product even more sharp and I mean, to give a fabulous user experience to all of your customers. Did I get that
Yep.
right?
Yep. That's right.
Fabulous. So, as far as the investors, competition, and the moat is concerned, why did you turn down YC? But that's not the only question. Your cap table reads like a who's who of infrastructure and AI.
Yep.
I'd already asked this because it's an obvious one. Why did you skip Y Combinator even after interest from Gary Tan? And instead, you choose to raise from people like Jeff Dean and Dane Necht. So,
Yep.
concretely, Dravya, what do these investors do for you beyond the check? Are they reviewing architecture, opening doors to early design partners, helping with hiring, or something which is a value add which made you take this call?
Yes. So what happened was I applied for the YC Summer Fellows Grant. I did not
Mm-hmm,
apply for the YC like kind of the actual fundraising.
mm-hmm,
I got the Summer Fellows Grant, but then I decided to build Supermemory as a company instead.
mm-hmm,
And that was a time when I got a lot of external interest from like a lot of VCs and a lot of partners, and they were like, all right, you should just take money from us. And the valuation that they offered was already like six times more than YC. So and
okay.
then YC came. So it was kind of too late in the story. I would still consider YC if it was earlier. But
Mm-hmm,
now the investors that I did end up getting are like some of the extremely like well recognized and like the best people in this industry. Um, so they not only review the architecture and help with the research and open doors that no one could think about,
mm-hmm,
but also they kind of act as a testament to how rigorous our own processes in
mm-hmm,
terms of infrastructure and research. Um, like the reality is infrastructure and research both are an extremely hard categories, and I'm a solo founder,
sure.
and I'm also very early in my life. So having these people on board with me, helping me with everything, like improves everything, and also the team in what we should, like what is our benchmark basically. So that helps a lot. And for day and connect, like I was used to work at Cloudflare, we use Cloudflare every time. For
Mm-hmm.
Google, we partner very heavily with Google models and all of that, so we actually do industry partnerships as well with these companies, which is really good.
Fair enough. Dravya, just a thought. Like you said, you're early in your life, but you're doing wonderfully well. But also, you come across as somebody who's grounded and aware of that fact. And before I move on, I need to ask you, do you believe that this little incident that took place with you, as far as the investors was concerned, exemplifies that line कि जो भी होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है?
Yeah, जो भी होता है अच्छे के लिए ही होता है. I do think that maybe getting YC is better for like recognition.
Mhm.
But I think that's kind of the wrong type of recognition because I'm like a B2B SaaS guy now. So
Nice.
for me, this is the best thing that could happen.
Fair enough. All right. So the memory space is getting crowded. So the way I wanted to ask you, I mean, it's been going through my mind, which is the fact that it is something which is hitting a very important node, a very important point for a lot of the customers. Because yeah, let's face it, if you're bringing a solution like the way you are, it really does, as you mentioned a while back, helps the customer's product and genuinely gives it a huge fillip. But
Yep.
it's a two-part thing. So there is letter, there is memo, there is memories.ai and others. So
Yep.
where is super memory non-negotiably different? I'll give you the aspects. Is it latency, flexibility across models, product surface, or something entirely different that we've missed?
So, in my opinion, it's just the product surface in itself. I'll just like lay out the market for you right
Hmm.
now. Let's say you are an enterprise, like you're an old legacy SaaS company.
Hmm.
Uh, like you are like an old company that has existed for 40 years. Okay. And you are considering, all right, I need the best memory system for this new thing I'm making.
Sure.
Um, you will have to look for a RAG provider or set of services that will help you do RAG, which is a vector database company, an embedding model company, and like a re-ranker company, and all of those. Um, then you have to look into some a company that can do like the personalization and the memory things, like a mem0, which just does the extraction and like the retrieval step. But then you also need to build out the infrastructure to do user profiles yourself.
Hmm.
So you are still like and you may also want a connectors product, or build a connectors thing to connect to like your users things. And then more thing, like even more than that, you would need observability. These products need to kind of like talk to each other to have better responses and stuff like that. So you need to do all the stitching yourself. um, how we kind of position super memory is that we are the context engineering layer. We do everything in
Hmm.
context engineering, from RAG, memory, user profiles, observability on top of everything, and then also qualitative analysis based on everything your users have been doing in your app, along with connectors, and extractors.
Hmm.
um, Letta has gone full in on the agentic retrieval stuff, which completely like eliminates it from the latency sensitive tasks.
Hmm.
Mem0 has like worse latency and worse memory quality, but it only works for memories that are not hierarchical. It's like a list that gets updated using a JSON
Hmm.
essentially.
Hmm.
um, and then memories.ai is only for videos. So we are kind of in this market where someone who comes in, looks at super memory, and they're like, all right, we need all of these things anyways, we should just choose this one. So that's where we stand out.
So essentially, you guys are ahead of the curve. And like you said, your differentiator is the surface itself.
Yep, exactly.
All right, fair enough. So when we come to India, Dravya, first you missed Bombay.
Yeah, I miss it a lot. I mentioned it right before the call, but
Yeah.
I live in Malad in Mumbai, and I used to go on a walk every single day. It was the best time of my day every day, and I used to drink a boost at the corner of a road in Mindspace.
So
Some people
boost
might know.
is the secret of your energy.
Yeah, so that was a really fun time. I loved it.
Fair enough. We'll of course be looking forward to you coming down, and then of course we can meet with you in person.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That'll be very cool. We'll both have boost together.
Yes,
It'll be a
100%.
boostful conversation. Anyway, open source and developer wave in India, Dravya. I want your thoughts on this. Uh, the fact that you've learned to code pre-chat GPT and built 60 plus products before super memory.
Yeah.
India, as you know, has just become the world's largest base of open source contributors. And you are one of the most talked about young Indian founders in memory plus infrastructure. So, congratulations. How do you see India's developer base influencing the next generation of tools like Supermemory? Are there any India first workflows you are seeing, let's say support teams, fintech, back offices, ops automation, where there is a memory layer which feels almost inevitable?
Yes, great question. I think there's a lot of open source projects emerging from India that I myself look up to, and the industry has also started looking up to. One
Mm-hmm.
of them you might have heard of as Kira, which is also one of our customers by Zed. He also is in Mumbai,
Mm,
by the way.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and there's like a lot of companies that are like springing out of India right now. But
mm,
unfortunately, everyone wants to come to the US because here's where companies are made, here's where all their customers are, etc., etc. Here's where the
mm,
funding is. But what I've started seeing nowadays is kind of like these a hierarchy or like a huge team in India that is responsible for like one big company project entirely.
mm,
And I can see
mm,
that happening in the future as well, where we set up like offices in India where it's like Cloudflare started doing this. I know Composio did this at some point. I'm pretty
mm,
sure they still do
mm,
this. So a lot of my founder friends have been doing this or are starting to do this thing where a lot of their dev work and like really complex engineering work is still happening in India, and that is really
okay.
beneficial to economies throughout the globe.
Mm,
I've also seen this very interesting kind of dynamic where we end up like founders like myself do open
mm,
source as a way to get to the world from India, which is
mm,
kind of what I initially did.
mm,
It's happening more nowadays, especially with AI, and as founders can make more and more things by themselves.
mhm,
Um, and like a lot of funding, especially grants, have started in India
mm,
now, which is
mm.
really good for teenage builders. There's also hacker houses like localhost. There's like a lot of shift that's happening in the industry, especially in India right now, and I'm like very very excited about everything.
So overall, a good push and a good injection as far as the ecosystem is concerned. You'd mentioned that long term you might be looking at something. So I want to ask you this: um, if you were to build long term, as you mentioned, India's specific features, let's say something like a Indic language extraction, maybe local data residency, or India based teams, or is memory deliberately geography agnostic?
Yeah. So we are geography agnostic,
Hmm.
and this is not only for India. This is also for like EU, like European
Okay.
Union. A lot of our European Union customers are like, okay, we want the data to be located in EU, but the way Supermemory works is everything is globally distributed. Everything is global by default. Everything is
Hmm.
multilingual by default. The multilinguality obviously is like affected by our model quality, which we train
Hmm.
on basically every single like language that we can get a hold of. But our goal is not to build for US or for Europe or for India or for any specific way of the place of the world. My
Hmm.
goal is to push the inflection point of AI, just like how agents did, just like how inference did,
Hmm.
push that inflection point even ahead through memory in the world,
Okay.
in
Okay.
humanity. And that's how I think about it. And it's cool that like I, as a guy from Mumbai, I'm able to even do it in the US. I don't think that should be a problem.
Fabulous. That is great foresight. I have to obviously ask you this, Dravya. Solo founder, man, it's not easy. You've had co founders before, you've seen things break, and now deliberately you choose to build as a solo founder in a solo together house. So, what are the
Yeah.
biggest advantages and biggest stacks of being a solo founder at such an advanced age of 20, running an infrastructure startup with serious customers? Let's start there
Yes.
first.
So being a solo founder brings you multiple different problems. One is, of course, like the amount of work that you need to do. And this is where I would like to give credit to my team. I'm very
Hmm.
generous in terms of pay and equity to my team. So everyone is like, essentially a part co-founder. So I have a lot of
Okay.
co-founders. Also, I like the fact that Julian chose me to be in the house. So, for context, I was living in this house full of six solo founders. like
Mm-hmm.
myself, early stage of the company,
Mm-hmm.
in the heart of San Francisco.
Mm.
And that experience was almost like living with people who are like who have vested interest in your company just like you do,
Oh, wow.
because most of the times when you want a co-founder, you want them for the moral benefits, or for like the work splits, or
Mm.
when things go down you need to go talk to someone. And all of these things are solved if you're around other founders who are extremely supportive and know like deep down what your business is and how you came to this business, because everyone was in the ideation phase
Mm.
back then. So it's an amazing experience. But I also
How
tried with.
old were you?
I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 19. I celebrated my
Okay.
20th birthday with them, so that was pretty cool.
Nice. Happy birthday.
um, but yeah, the my my choice of being a solo founder was not exactly deliberate, because I did try, and I would still be open to having a co-founder. I did try to get some, but either the vision doesn't align, or kind of like the expertise or the experience
Sure.
doesn't align, or they are not like you're able to double down on the thing that I'm doing. And like, to get the perfect fit is so much of work that I would rather just continue building. And I just kept building, and things just turned out well. So yeah, don't let it stop you is basically the thing that Julian always says.
And that's a wonderful thing to live with. And you've done wonderfully well. You've
Yeah.
said you hire fast and you fire fast. You obviously just mentioned that a lot of your team feels like they're co-founders. So members are often people you met, well, years ago, or what do you optimize for when hiring? Is it raw talent, Dravya? Is it deep ownership, or a cultural fit with your obsessive builder lifestyle?
Yes, I'm very lucky to have a team that I've known. Like all of them, I've known. Uh, so out of the four, three of them I've known for more than 2 years, which
Nice.
is absolutely amazing. One of them I did research with. One of them I built the original version of Supermemory with. He was in the original team 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and one of them is a guy I learned to code with. So it's
Nice.
like absolutely amazing. And that guy I know since 6 years, by the way. So the team I chose has been with me, and kind of like in the same builder groups, in the same culture as I have on the internet. So they're obviously very smart. They have extreme ownership because they build a lot of products of their own,
Hmm.
and they kind of like are unstoppable. Like they are very aligned with the vision, and they want to stay in the company, and they want to live the experience of like being in a billion-dollar company. And everyone believes that we are in a spot where we will very easily be there, if we just do all
Nice.
our things right. So everyone's very motivated, everyone's very like hardworking, which is a great place to be.
No, always is. Of course, before I move on, I need to definitely ask you this. Great to have a great camaraderie with your team, as you just mentioned, Dravya. But let's face facts. The onus still lies on your shoulders alone. The responsibility is on your shoulders alone. The VCs have looked at you and have invested in you and your entire vision. Does that make you feel lonely? Maybe at some level or the other, do you fear it? Do you feel insecure? Or is it liberating?
Um, I think for me, like obviously there is this thing of like, man, I need to do everything right, or I'm not doing things right and stuff like that. And any founder who says otherwise is probably lying. So obviously
Mm-hmm.
there's times when things are just like, man, what do I do now?
Mm.
And sometimes you are like, I should have done this before, I should have done this before, and you blame yourself for stuff. And then I'm like also very lucky to have like one of my investors as my neighbor, so I just go to his place and I just talk to him.
Nice.
And my team is always in person, so I talk to them, or like some other founders. I live with other founders as well, so I go talk to them.
Mm.
So yeah, like I have a lot of like support group whom I can feel comfortable talking about these things with, who are kind of in the same spot or have been in the same spot or also have vested interest. So it does feel lonely sometimes, but if I want to, I can choose to fix it, which I probably like. I almost always choose to. So yeah, or I just go for a walk. That also always works.
Going for a walk, and let's not forget, have boost.
Yes, have boost.
Very
Now it's
important.
Dandelions coffee. So
Okay. But that's encouraging. That's good to know that you're in a good space, both in terms of your team, yourself mentally, and it always helps if your investor is your neighbor. Of course, you
yep.
recently joked that, well, you're not smart enough to be an IIT dropout, and then edited your own LinkedIn education to lean into that meme. How do you personally navigate the gap, Dravya, between the media narrative around you and the reality you live day to day?
Yes, man, great question. So there's like multiple problems with the media narrative. One is around my background, which is ID
Mm.
dropout, etc., etc. None of it is true.
Hmm.
Then is about the product, which is like, oh, this is just rag, or oh, this is very simple to build. Like I built this the last week, etc., etc.
Hmm.
Because you don't either don't understand the entire product or know the product from 2 years ago, when I started it, which was actually very simple. Um,
Mm.
or people think that I'm from like an elite rich family, and I got all these elite connections, and all of my elite connections gave me money. Like I'm just a dude from Malad. My dad is a businessman. I know no one in tech who's my relative, so I don't know where that came from, but that's just an assumption. For me, I just ignore it. I don't care.
Fair.
I play into it. I use it as marketing.
And nicely done. Because all of them are very interesting, juicy narratives which you can, well, sit back and enjoy. And like you just mentioned, कि ये कहाँ से आया?
Yeah. Or I can just like use them to boost my ARR. So it's very fun.
Absolutely. Well done on that one. All right. That now famous, well, San Francisco cafe tweet, which is a distressed founder, missing investor, instant super memory customer, almost reads like a parody of the Valley. So when you meet people in those moments, Dravya, are you thinking sales, storytelling, or just this will be a good tweet?
uh Dude, I'm just living my life. I don't think about these things.
Nice.
I am just like drinking coffee or meeting people. Meeting people really energizes me, so I don't overthink it. I'm passionate enough to keep talking about technology all the time, so I sometimes weigh myself away from it. Um, and like this one day I was just like in a cafe and with another like one of my investors, and I was in the middle of raising a round, and this
Hmm.
other investor came in and he was like, dude, meet Dravya, like he's amazing. And that person puts in a check instantly, and then that ends up being my lead investor later on. So yeah,
Hmm.
like you just have to kind of be yourself. Like if you go from a perspective of, oh my god, I need to like be my best self, I need to tell a story, I need to convince them my product is the best, it won't work. Like people can look through all the bullshit. So because people like people in the end of the at the end of the day.
Sure.
So
Well said.
have to kind of like optimize for that, and then everything just falls in place.
Wonderfully put. And like the fact that you're not affected by all of the noise. Very quickly, a question about the noise. What do you think about this? In San Francisco last week, Dravya, 300 plus founders voted Perplexity as the most likely billion-dollar startup to flop. What's your take on that verdict? And do you think the AI hype cycle is running ahead of fundamentals?
um I think people have like, it's like pessimists sound smart but optimists make all the money. You might have heard of
Nicely
that quote.
said.
But
Nicely used.
I my like understanding from all of this is that people don't understand how difficult it is to build a good product. Like,
Mm,
even if you build a product that is loved by 10 people, um, it is like almost like magic. Like, you should try it. You should build something that people genuinely like. Um, and I have not been successful at it myself in a consumer angle.
mhm.
So I have huge respect for Perplexity and Aravind for even like getting to hundreds and thousands, like millions of
Sure.
people who love it. And I think that once a company gets to that stage and has the right fundamentals and has the right iteration velocity, like in reality, they can just do something to keep people happy. Like they have that in their blood. Um, because startups are not something that you make. It's not like an idea, right? It's not something you make and you're like, okay, I'm done with it. You have to keep iterating. You have to keep changing as with the market. And I think Perplexity has it in their blood, and they will win no matter what people think. So I'm very optimistic about them.
Fair enough. Dravya, thank you so much for being on the show with us. But before I let you go, very quickly, I need you to give a message to everyone and the fact that it's been fabulous having a conversation with you. And you're an inspiration. And we obviously wish you all the luck. But very quickly, your message.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing me here as well. My simple message would be, like you should chase obsession for something that you genuinely believe you can spend all your life in. You should go as deep as possible in it. You should like learn everything possible about it. Like you should pick something and just dive in and do everything that you can to be the best at it in the world. And this is not my quote. This is actually Richard Feynman's quote. I'm just
Mhm.
stealing it, but it's one something I live by.
Fabulous. Of course, it's wishing you all the best and your team all the best. And may you forever grow and achieve greater and bigger things.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the inspirational Dravya, who has built Supermemory from scratch. He's got a small team which is dedicated and is completely ensconced in the work. He is looking forward to making this company grow. He's received the funding. He's got that fire in his eyes. And of course, this is wishing him and his team all of the best from Front Page on AIM Network, which is to think AI, think AIM.